Hello, everyone, and welcome. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us. My name is Sonia, and I'm the head of Magnum Learn. I'm just going to do a little bit of housekeeping while everyone is filing in. So today's session will last about 1 hour, 1 hour and a half. It depends on the questions as well. We will first hear from the photographers themselves, who you can see on the call right now, and then I will take you through the Magnum and Spéos course in details. This call is recorded, so we will send out the recording to everyone that has signed up for it. So don't worry if you can't stay throughout, or if you have to leave and come back, you will have the possibility to listen to everything afterwards. We will take time for questions at the end of the project presentations, and you can start implementing your questions at any time during the call using the Q&A function. We don't use the chat function, so put your question in the Q&A. And I think everyone's arrived, so I'm really, really happy to introduce 7 students from this year's Magnum Spéos Creative Documentary course. They will present the work they have developed over the past year, and we hope you enjoy this glimpse into their projects. Magnum Learn is the educational branch of Magnum Photos. We provide opportunities to meet and learn from Magnum photographers worldwide. And Spéos is a recognized international photo school, helping students reach their goals by offering professional photography programs. Together, we have run the Magnum Spéos Creative Documentary Program for the past 8 years. And today, really, we wanted to highlight the work done by some of the students of this year's cohort. Each project that you're going to see was done between September, maybe even October, and now, under the mentorship of the Spéos tutors and the Magnum photographers. I am extremely pleased to welcome Camila, Christian, Herng, Jia, Laura, Rungchin, and Souraya. And so without further ado, let's dive in.
Well, hello everyone. I'm Camila from Buenos Aires, Argentina. And the project that I'm showing you today is a super personal project about how I see the world. And it's based on equality. It's based on the idea that the whole world is made of one fundamental thing, that is the atoms. And I ask myself, knowing this, that if everything is essentially equal, then why we have so many inequalities among us? And you can see this in the photos, how I connect them visually, but also you will find some texts. And these texts are some news about different inequalities from all around the world in the past few years. So if we go deeper a little bit in quantum physics and all this atoms theory, there is also a phenomenon that explains that if two particles once interacted, they can remain connected no matter the distance. And knowing this, my way of taking photos for this project feels like if I was extracting visual units from the world, because for me, an atom of reality is the same as a pixel in photography. So what I'm trying to do, I guess, is just taking a lot of pixels to create the big image of reality. And I don't know how you feel when you remember that everything is connected and shares the same components, but for me there is like a big frustration, I guess, because I feel that all what came after, they are just artificial divisions that we created, and all these disparities and separations that we perceive and that we naturalize, they are just illusions that fragment society every day more. So that's why also I put the news, because I think it's a proof of this fragmentation of society. And they are all different. I categorize them in different kinds of inequalities. You will see at the end, I put the references. But basically, I chose different categories like gender, sexual orientation, age, nationality, in where we can find injustices, inequalities, and violence. And of course, it's not only about these news, but it's what they represent and a lot of inequalities that are happening all around the world. And so I like to think this project as a reminder that we all come from the same place, and sometimes we forget, but we are all just atoms, and all what came after is just an illusion, I guess. That's my point of view, at least. So here you have all the references and the categories I was telling you about, and you can scan the QR code to lead you to the news if you're interested. And that's it. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Camila. Thanks a lot. As I said earlier, if you want to start putting questions, if you have questions for Camila, you can start putting them in the Q&A, and then we'll go through them at the very end. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Christian Moorman. I'm Guyanese American, but I was raised in the US. So my project focuses on the sugar industry in Guyana and specifically the work and lives of sugarcane cutters. For anyone who's not too familiar with Guyana, which is fair enough because it's a small country whose name sounds very similar to Ghana and Guinea and Guyana. It's a Caribbean country on the northern tip of South America between Venezuela and Suriname. It was a British colony until 1966 when it achieved independence, and it's culturally similar to other former British colonies in the Caribbean like Trinidad and Tobago and Jamaica. So why the focus on sugar in Guyana? Well, it's hard to overstate the cultural and historical significance of sugar to Guyana. In the 1650s, the Dutch established the first sugar plantations in the region, and since then, sugar estates have remained one of the area's only constant features. Sugar was the reason the British took Guyana from the Dutch, and it lies behind Guyana's current demographic makeup. People from Africa and later India were brought to Guyana by the British to work on sugar estates as slaves and indentured servants. So, in this project, I wanted to document Guyana's sugarcane cutters, the people who go out each morning and cut the sugarcane by hand. It's the first step and the most important step in the sugar cultivation process. It's backbreaking work that they're paid very little to do, and the work itself hasn't changed much since the 1800s. They use the same tools like these Braddock's cutlasses and techniques now as they did then. I took these photos at the Rose Hall Sugar Estate in eastern Guyana, a place that's personally significant to me. My grandfather worked at this estate for over a decade, and when he was around the age I am now, and my mother was born just down the road. So in 2015, massive amounts of oil were discovered off Guyana's shores, and since then, sugar production has declined by over 70%. So with sugar's uncertain future in mind, I wanted to try to document the labor and the laborers who have played such a central role in Guyanese history. And I mean, in terms of overall themes, I mean, during the time I spent with Rose Hall's cane cutters, I was really, really moved by the dignity with which they face their quite blatant exploitation. And more than anything, I really hope that that dignity comes through in my photos of them and their lives. So thank you very much. And can... So it's a mixture of, yeah, portraits, wider shots, shots of the work, the workers. And in the broader project, I go into the community that has grown up sort of on the fringes of the sugar estate and tried to show what daily life is like after the day has ended for them. This is the burning. It's an essential step. They have to burn the fields before they're cut to get rid of vines and snakes and all these things that cause problems. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Christian. I am very sorry. I need a minute. There is a fire alarm.
Oh, fair enough.
Let me just, please bear with me. I'm just gonna go outside and then we connect from there. 1 second.
So how's everyone's day going?
I'm back. So let's continue. Thank you so much, Christian. I'm sorry for this interruption.
No
I'm
problem.
just sitting here. So as for everyone, please put your question for Christian in the Q&A and then we'll continue.
Hello, everyone. And thank you guys for being here. And my name is Herng LEE, and I'm from Taiwan, 30 years old. Today, I'm sharing with you a selection from my ongoing project titled A Testimony for Deer, and which is a long-term photography work that began with the birth of my nephews. I have never had a clear memory of my own childhood, and there's only fragments or small impressions left. But through the quiet act of photographing these children growing up, I gradually recognized the traces of myself, memories not exactly remembered, but felt through presence. I see this project in three phases, following the way we often move through life. First, we come to know the world around us, the living and the surroundings. Then we reached outward, hoping to see the universe. In my case, my nephews is my universe. And finally, through that long process of seeing and caring, we come back to ourselves to witness who we are. By caring for them, I came to understand that photographing then was not only about seeing the world, but about seeing myself. Photography became a form of testimony to my memory, to my nephews, and to the self I am still learning to understand. A quote from Anais Nin: I am the keeper of fragile things, and I have kept of you what is indissoluble. Thank you for the attention. And I'll let you guys now just quietly enjoying my images.
That was amazing. And then you should.
Yeah. I mean,
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I will go back in because the fire alarm is finished. Give me 1 second. I'm really sorry for this. Okay.
Okay, so we're back in room and hello everyone. I'm Jia from Shanghai, China. And the project I'm sharing today is called If Dreams Are Real, Let's Stay Asleep. So as you can see, it all begins with a closed eye, inviting us into a dream composed of memory and the reality, a place where emotion often feels more trustworthy than facts. So I began this project this year during a time of emotional turbulence and inner uncertainty. So many of the things I once thought was stable actually began to shift, like my sense of identity, of connection, or of how I understood the emotion. So I didn't actually want to explain what I was going through. Instead, I pick up the camera not to make sense of the change, but to be inside it. So each photo became a kind of quiet resistance, an attempt to reach something just out of reach. So I combined real moments with pieces of memories to show how the past and the present can often mix together. So they feel quiet, unresolved, but hopefully never too dark. And they don't really follow a straight timeline, because I believe that memory doesn't. And between now and the past, they loop, fade, and come back again. And this project became reflection on the instability of perception, on how memory works, how we reconstruct meaning, and how emotion change what we see. And the gesture that once felt intimate might later, feel very distant, or a single moment when we look back on, we will feel very different. So I didn't want to define my photos or myself too clearly. I want to leave room for what was still changing. So when we look at an image, we don't really see what's in front of us. We bring our own memories, emotions, or questions into it. What we see is shaped by where we are internally. So I didn't want these photos to speak too loudly. I wanted to leave quite space for your own reflection, for you to feel like something very personal, even it's not the same as mine. So these photos are meant to offer, are not meant to offer conclusions. They are not meant to create something between knowing and unknowing, between holding on and letting go. So this project is kind of leads us to stay in a dream a little longer, to stay away from what's changing. But we all know that dreams don't last forever. We all wake up and we all have to face what's real. So still, I believe there's something that we're staying inside for a while, like the unclear, the almost, or the not yet. And I believe this is where this project belongs, not in clarity, but in presence, not to explain, but to feel. So like you just see just to say, yeah, this has happened and this is how it felt. You think it's an ending, but maybe it's already starting again. So yes, thank you for listening.
Thank you, Jia. Thank you so much. Laura, you're on mute.
My name is Laura Riis. I am Danish and 22 years old. My project is set in the northern west Pakistan in the Hindu Kush Mountains, and it explores the reality of religious conversions within a very small indigenous community called Kalash. So the Kalash people are known for being animistic, and right now they're facing growing pressure socially, religiously, and politically to convert to Islam. And many have already converted. And the thing is that in Islam, conversion is a one-way path. It's an irreversible commitment. And while for some it's a decision shaped by marriage, family, or the relief and a sense to belong to majority, for others it brings profound loss and disconnection as well. And still some remain. This is an image of Shamraz. She's celebrating her purification, testifying her faith as Kalash. And not long ago, her father converted to Islam, leaving her and her sisters at a new crossroad. And that's the thing, youthhood here is not just about growing up. It's about choosing a path and identity, really. And many young Kalash are raised in houses split by belief, one parent Muslim and the other still practicing Kalash traditions. And it shapes their sense of belonging in a very complex way. And to the Kalash who choose to study outside of the valleys will in most cases have to wear Muslim clothes, making them forced to assimilate into the Muslim world. And of course, this puts on a lot of pressure for the young people. This is, for example, 3 of the young Kalash boys in the only Kalash school that you find within the valleys. And most of the pictures you see will be from different ceremonies that is during the winter, that's called Chaumos. So that's why there's a lot of fires and sacred rituals. This is Asrat Gul, and she's the only female doctor who treats both Muslim and Kalash women. And she teaches them about prevention, she helps with pregnancy, she looks after all women, and she has created like a space where religion actually didn't matter. And that's super important for people still to have, Yeah, and this is Hima. She also converted from Kalash to Muslim many, many, many years ago because her husband also chose to convert. And yeah, that's the thing, conversion sort of creates both a departure and a duality, because some stay and some leave, and others, they sort of stay in between both of the religion. And for those who do convert, the memory of Kalash, of course, is still quite dominant, both in their ideologies, in their language, and in their heritage. And so this is not just a story of loss, it's a story of transition. And it's the idea that each image is like a dialogue between past and present, where childhood and faith and identity sort of intersects in ways both personal, but definitely also universal. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you so much. Rungchin, you're on mute.
Oh, hello. My name is Rungchin from Taipei, Taiwan, and my project, The Fallen People's Palace, is taken in the metro stations of Russia. I made this journey in March. The concept of a transitional justice is widespread in Eastern Europe, where the traces of past totalitarian rule have been erased after Cold War. However, Russia they has chosen to preserve many Soviet symbols everywhere instead of removing them. And why metro station, according to French anthropologist Marc Auger in his book on Analogue dans le métro, is a commuting space that people use repeatedly every day. Metro stations shape people's urban identity. We breathe the air of the metro, navigate its labyrinths, recite the station names, and walk through the intertwined history of national and local development. But we seldom notice this phenomenon. So this is very interesting to me. In these beautiful stations or underground palace, I saw gorgeous painting, mosaic, and statues of Lenin and all the USSR heroes. Each station has its own mystery and charm, yet in the contemporary era where the USSR has long since dissolved, more than 30 years, and society has become more open, it also seems rather absurd because they still preserve them, use them, and then the people seeing them every day. The inability to let go of the good old past, coupled with outdated national ideologies, with is interesting to me. Back to my country, Taiwan, we also face the challenge of transitional justice after being under the martial law for almost 40 years during the rule of the Kuomintang government. Therefore, Russia's contrasting attitude toward the past symbols of totalitarian rule compared to its neighborhood countries is worth reflect upon. So yeah, those are my photos taken in the march. Yes, so this is my project about the metro in Russia. Okay, thank you for
Rungchin.
listening.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Hello, everyone. My name is Souraya, and I'll be presenting What Remains. I'm from Beirut, Lebanon, and I grew up in Lebanon. But at the age of 18, I left in search of a brighter future, better education, and so on. It's been 10 years since, and I have to say that departure left me quite fragmented, at loss of identity, not really knowing where to situate myself in the world, and looping between questions such as where is home, where do I belong? So What Remains is about my return to Lebanon, into the familiar, into the foreign, and is a sort of attempt to reconnect with that part of myself and with my country, while celebrating what remains from this place, which is the indestructible spirit. So in some ways, it's an ode to the strength, to the resilience, to the chaos, and the estrangement, and even sadly to the destruction, which is a big part of our reality, one that we can't really ignore. The project was built, and I mean, the images were taken over 3 weeks. Phase 1, which happened in December, was quite interesting because I subconsciously went back to places that marked me in the past. So I was kind of guided by my memories. Whereas phase 2 was much more experimental. I allowed for the unknown and for the unexpected to happen. And it was interesting to even like play with that tension again with the familiar and the foreign. As you probably realize, the images alternate between portraits and still life. Weirdly enough, 90% of the subjects that you see are strangers. And usually when you meet someone you don't really know, you have that distance. But in that case, the portraits allowed me to express that connection and comfort that you can only feel when home. Whereas the still life are much more like abstract and bizarre and absurd at times, which is something I have to say I felt when I was back home. At times I felt a bit of a stranger, and it's quite of a bizarre feeling. I also at times couldn't really understand how that place operates, and thanks to the still life I was able to express that. But either or, I would never imagine one or the other. They kind of like complete each other. On a macro level, I would say that each image represents a facet of Lebanon. And to conclude, I mean, I would say that this project is a personal quest. Did I find my place? I'm not sure. I think it's the beginning of a longer journey. But thanks to this project and thanks to photography, I've never felt more connected to home. I hope to trigger a bit of surprise and unexpected and curiosity in the viewer. And yeah, thank you for listening.
Thank you. Thank you, Souraya. Thank you, everyone. Apologize again for the fire alarm. So congratulations, everyone. I think it's really impressive to have this, I don't know, so much variety in your project. Let me go through some of the questions. So and I think it's a question for all of you, actually, from Julian, who's asking, I'm a beginner in photography and I study in Guatemala. How to start the project? I have several ideas, but I don't know how to make the first step. How to be inside the topic. And once we have made a project, what do we do with it? So I think because you've just been experiencing this, and just a reminder for everyone on the call, these projects that you've seen, they've just been made in between September 2024 and now. So who wants to start to answer this question? Come on. You have to unmute yourself.
I think it can be really daunting to start a new project because it's in the beginning when there is most clues that you have not answered yet. But I often think that if it's a specific case of something, starting with having one contact and a relation with a person or an event that's happening within what you want to photograph can be a really good beginning, so that you don't say, oh, but I have to do 5 different things for this to become a project. I think talking with the people and sort of shape your project based on the responses that you're getting is a very slow way to do it, but I think it's a very personal and human way to interact with projects. That's one way.
I think as well, you need to start with something that you're deeply interested in. That's one thing we've learned this year, because, you know, to keep the sort of your engine going, because it is tiring to keep working on a project and keep going back and you know, keep that momentum up. You need to be personally, I think, deeply interested in the subject matter, and that can be as narrow or broad as you want. I mean, you can do a fascinating project on bottle caps or on an entire country or region or something, but I think that's an essential component.
Yes, I think that's both very good point, and maybe just to answer the part of like, once you've made a project, what to do with it. I think it really depends on the nature of the project, and there's not like one answer to this. In the case of this, and I'm going to talk about this later, but if any one of you lives in Paris, there's an exhibition that is coming up on the 3rd of June. I will share the details at the end. So it's going to take the form of a group exhibition, but it doesn't have to be this way. It can be a book. It can be so many other things. Another question also for all the group, and it's from Zoya, who's saying that she's starting the course in September. And what is the one thing I should expect? Come on, some advice, how to be prepared. Ding Herng, Jia, maybe Camila, who wants to give one advice? If you were talking to yourself back in September last year, what would you say?
And I would say that if you already have a camera and already treat yourself or already treat photography like seriously, I would suggest you guys first to get to know your equipment more, because when at the beginning when you jump into the course, there will be like assignments or like things happening in Paris that for you to document immediately. So it's better for you to know your equipment and know where you are as a photographer right now. So in that case, you won't experience the confusion when you in the first few months when you join the course, I think. Yeah.
Nice one. Gia, Camila, an advice?
I can answer the question about what to expect.
Yes.
Just I would say, get ready to go inwards, because photography is very personal and it's a lot about understanding yourself. So you have to be open to that. Yeah.
And for me, like the most important thing during this course is also that I can meet the community. It's a very precious thing that I can meet people who are all very into photography, and we can inspire each other, like teach each other. So it's really a very valuable experience to me. And also, as Souraya said, you also need to like listen to yourself. You can listen to all, like ask for opinion from all the Magnum mentors, from your friends, but also you need to stay true to yourself to see what you are really into, what you are really like, what subject is really related to yourself, and what photos are you want to get. Yes.
Yes, that's a very good point, actually, the community and the group. So this year, it's a group of 13, and everyone is coming from a lot of different countries. And I think that maybe there is a nice parallel to this question. So asking, that's Antoine asking, and it's for all of you again, what did change in the way you approach your work further to following the course? I think it's like, now we were looking back at September, and then how do you feel now it's almost over? You know, what has changed in how you see photography and your work?
I think the big one for maybe a few of us is the transition from taking individual photos that we like or that resonate with us to thinking about photography as a project-based sort of thing, and working on, I mean, for a lot of us, our first cohesive or relatively cohesive, project. that's been the biggest shift for me. I haven't ever worked on a project where I'm trying to explore something through multiple photographs, and that's something you learn, and the sequencing and all the thinking that goes into that and all the work. That was a huge part of the course, I think, and a big shift.
I'll say yes again to the sequencing part of Christian just mentioned. I mean, for me, the sequencing part of the sequencing for the images is like really an important part for as a photographer to tell your story of the storytelling, right? And yes, I think the sequencing part is the most part that impact me the most, and I will keep that as a sort of a skill set with me along the future when as I still a photographer. Yeah.
Um,
We can hear
can
you,
I
Rungchin. Yes. Yes.
yes. For me, because before entering the school, we take individual personal photos mainly, but we seldom take a project facing the public. So, we are learning to use our skill to complete a project, and especially how to use photography to create a dialogue, create a conversation with the audience, not just for us, but for the world. What are you going to discuss? And what issue are you interested in? And to dig out and to speak. Yes. So more like to learn how to face to the public.
And maybe if I can also add something, I feel that's for all of you, but this is also like throughout the years, I also feel like there is a sense of like between September and now, with the changes that you also the realization of like things are possible, you can make things happen. You can articulate an idea, turn it into photographs, and that happens in relatively like short period of time, because we're talking about like September to now, but in reality, September is really the brainstorming phase, etc. The actual starting taking the pictures comes later, and I think that's also, it's always quite impressive to see how much you all managed to do in such a short period of time, and the level of photography that you achieve. And I think that's also really cool. It's the realization of this. You shouldn't forget. This is this we're recording this. Remember that. I think we can let you go. I'm just going to throw, there's one question for you, Christian, but I think it's interesting as well for everyone else in terms of project. Jan is asking how you approach the community and how long it took you to go to the field to take pictures. And I think it's a nice example of how to do this.
Yeah, and yeah, I feel like Laura can also probably help answer this as someone that, and Souraya as well, as someone that like worked abroad in a different community. For me, it was quite, well, easier than I expected, I guess. I'm lucky in that the sugar estate I was working at is literally like a 10-minute drive from my grandmother's house. And so I was able to go stay with family, free accommodation. And I was working in an environment that is actually quite conducive to photography, compared to somewhere like, say, Paris, where if you raise a camera in the metro, someone will immediately, sort of cover their face or come over and say, "Why are you taking my picture?" And in the Caribbean, people are much more open to having their picture taken, and that really helped a lot in terms of how close I was able to get photographically, say, in such a short amount of time. Getting in the fields, I found difficult bureaucratically from Paris. I found that there were a lot of unanswered emails and phone calls that went nowhere. And so in the end, the technique that worked was just rocking up to the sugar estate with a piece of paper with my contact info, why I wanted to shoot there, and a smile and my camera, and saying, "Hi, my grandfather worked here. I'm interested in this for this and that reason." And would it be okay if I shoot here and had permission? And permission was granted that day, and now, you know, I was able to shoot there for a couple weeks, and it was fantastic. And now I've made friends and stuff there, and so it was I think at the core of that, I guess it ties into what I was saying earlier. Like, I think if you are genuinely interested in something, that's also like palpable to other people. And especially if you're interested in someone's life or their community or something like that, it makes it much easier to establish close relationships quicker if you go and they can tell that you're really genuinely interested in them, and it's not just sort of this thing where you're coming in to swoop in and, you know, take a few photos and run away. So I don't know if that, sorry, I feel like I've rambled quite a bit there, but that is.
No, it was very nice. Very, and I think lots of things like takeaways, no, from this. So thank you, Christian. Laura, Souraya, you want to add anything about working in? No, you think Christian has done a very good job in explaining this. I think to close this first part of, there's a very nice comment from Antoine, which I'm going to read, where he says a comment rather than a question. All the works shown are very humbling. You can all be proud. Congratulations. Thank you so much, Antoine. That's super nice to say. So for all of you in Paris, please come on the 3rd of June. This is the opening of the exhibition, and it's going to be in Le Marais. There will be the details in the email I send with the recording. And then for you guys, thank you, because it was a bit of like nervous exercise to do. It was real pleasure to see your work on the screen this way, and for just listening to you telling us the stories. I'm going to let you go. You can click leave. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
Everyone.
Thank you.
Please, everyone, stay on as I continue talking and telling you about the course. So this second part is really to go deeper into what is going to happen during this year. So Magnum and Spéos starts in September, and in July. It's really 9 months. It always takes place in Paris. As I said at the beginning, I think we are in the 8 years of the program, and really there's like the program is twofold. There's everything that you're going to learn with Spéos, and what is quite special about the program is that they're really trying to give you the tools to work as a professional photographer afterwards. So that includes, you know, how to have better skills at lighting, but also you learn how to make budgets and these kind of things, and it's super important. And then you spend 2 days a week at Magnum, so always 1 day a week with a Magnum photographer. You have mentors, and then they come and they really it's a mix of like listening and looking at what you do, but also just like getting inspired by their approach to photography, and seeing how that translates for your own practice in a way. So the program is divided in 3, let's say like 3 parts. The first semester, it's when we really want you to like hear from lots of different photographers, and then what the students were saying, you also like there's a lot of assignments from the Spéos mentors, so you go out and take pictures. It's really like making and learning. This is how we approach this. The reason for this is like we want you to get more confident with your gears and the cameras, and then we also want you to get a lot of inspiration from different parts, so you can slowly start shaping what your project will be. All of the students in the program, everyone makes a personal project, which is then presented to a jury at the end of the year, and then exhibited at the end of the year show. So that's slowly turns into the main focus in the second semester. And some of these personal projects really have turned, you know, they've been awarded. They have been the beginning of bigger, longer projects. It's in a way the perfect environment to start something quite ambitious, because you'll have all of the structure around you to help you carry out something that can be as ambitious as possible. And then the last semester, which is going to start fairly soon, is what we call professional practice module experts. And then Spéos invites a lot of people from the industry. It's a lot about networking, but they're also talking about budgeting, accountancy, funding proposals, all of these things to hopefully like they not let you like finish the year and feeling on your own, but having the support structure that you need to continue and you know, to make a living as a photographer. These are all of the different things that you'll approach throughout the year, whether this is with the Magnum side or at Spéos. So the two Spéos schools and the Magnum offices, they are very close to each other. It's about 5-10 minutes walk. Not that you'll have, sometimes you'll have to go from one place to another, but this is also just a nice thing. It's all in the 11th arrondissement of Paris, very nice place. This is just for your information. This is when we're starting the week of September. The introduction week, basically it's all of the students from the school are together. And then slowly, you'll start meeting the Magnum mentors, etc., understanding about your group. As it was said during the earlier presentation, I think the group aspect is really important. People make friends, you know, you spend a lot of time together. And it's a really wonderful community that stays afterwards with you. I think that's like something that we see throughout the year, and how people make friends and stay in contact afterwards. And it's really important for this. This is, if you want to have more information, you can obviously contact us and we'll be very happy to answer your question. We can have phone calls. We can, there is the possibility to visit the Spéos schools if you wanted to see. It's a really beautiful school with really cool facilities like studios, etc. And as I was saying, there is an opening very soon in Paris from this year's cohort. So there are 13 in total. They are all showing their work. And there was a question a little earlier about the fact that it looks like some of them have been like going back home to work on their projects and doing the course in Paris in the meantime. And this is absolutely open. So when it comes to the personal projects, there's no rules really. We guide everyone into doing something that is realistic within the time frame mostly. And I would say that this year is maybe like, there's like 30% of students that have traveled abroad, and then the others have stayed and done work in Paris. And in here, for example, you have Jia, Camila, who have worked and stayed home. I mean, home, it's a very broad sense. And every year it's a little bit different. Some people might really like, there will be groups where there's more focus on stories in France or in Paris. But in some ways, besides the fact that Paris is a great city to study, because when it comes to photography possibilities, it has so much to offer. It's just the projects don't have to be about Paris. They have to be about what you want to say with your photography. I think that's also quite crucial. Another question, let me just go. These are some of the pictures from last year's install of the group show. And let me just, someone is asking about challenge for female photographers. One second, I'm just gonna read that question better. Is it a big challenge for you all to make documentary alone? So I'm not a photographer, but if that's okay, I'm going to answer that. I think it has, you know, it has been at times challenging. I don't think it's maybe for a woman photographer, we might take more, you know, make sure that everything is more okay whenever, depending on the project that is happening. And this is, I'm talking about us as mentors. but the reality and also sometimes what happens is that when you are a woman photographer, more doors are open to you. You know, it would be easier to go into people's homes if you are a woman. It would be easier to be trusted by families if you are a woman. And so from my experience of working with photographers for about almost 2 decades now, there is less limitation in that sense and more possibilities if you're a woman photographer. And I guess just to finish with this is I will, in the email that I will send afterwards, you will have the link to this recording. I will also link to the website, the Magnum website and the Spéos website, so you can really take time to read all of the course details. Having, you know, this is a program that at the end gives you a diploma. So you have all of the details about this as well on the website. And I will also send you the information for the opening. And we hope to see some of you in Paris very soon. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a lovely day, and thank you so much for joining and for listening to the photographers. We're very pleased we could present their work today. Thank you and have a great day.